Hey everyone, and welcome to The Explainer. Today we're diving into something that is quite literally rewriting the rules of technology as we know it. We're looking at a fascinating inflection point from early 2026, a moment where research and development completely shifted gears. We're going to unpack the data, the massive corporate moves, and honestly, the staggering security implications of what happens when artificial intelligence crosses one very specific threshold. So let's unravel this incredible story together.
Okay, let's dive into this, because it's kind of the ultimate sci-fi question, right? What actually happens when AI starts building AI? But based on the source material we're looking at today, this isn't fiction anymore. It's reality. In early 2026, a major player named OpenBrain took a massive, truly ambitious gamble. They decided to use AI to speed up the actual underlying research of AI itself. And the biggest takeaway from our data? That bet is paying off. We're not talking about AI just, drafting emails or generating cool images. We are talking about AI actively participating in the algorithmic expansion of its own successors. And when that happens, traditional timelines for human innovation don't just compress, they get completely thrown out the window.
Section 1. The AI Speed Run, Accelerating the Future.
I really want you to focus on this one massive metric, 50%. Think about that for a second. In the world of enterprise R&D, fighting for even a 1 or 2% efficiency gain is usually a huge win. But OpenBrain, they're experiencing a 50% multiplier. By deploying their own AI internally, they are fundamentally altering the speed of algorithmic progress. To put that into perspective, for every 2 steps a normal, human-led research team takes, OpenBrain is taking 3. Over weeks, months, and years, that compounding velocity is just world-changing.
So what does this AI R&D progress multiplier actually mean for everyone else in the industry? Well, our source makes it pretty clear. OpenBrain is making progress 50% faster than they would without these AI assistants. But the real kicker? They're moving 50% faster than competitors who haven't adopted this tech yet. It creates this absolutely terrifying gap in the market. Look, if you're a competitor relying solely on traditional human research cycles, you are mathematically being left behind. There's no way around it. Savvy folks across the industry are waking up to this and scrambling to automate the routine parts of their jobs, really just to survive and keep pace with this crazy new baseline of speed.
Let's move to and see how this builds chronologically. Back in 2025, a bunch of competing, publicly released AIs, including open-weights models, had actually managed to match or even beat OpenBrain's previous model, which we'll just call Agent 0. Basically, the competition had caught up. So jumping to early 2026, OpenBrain responds by dropping Agent 1. Which was a much more capable and reliable system. But the real paradigm shift is our present state in this analysis. OpenBrain didn't just release Agent 1, they aggressively deployed it internally, specifically for their own AI R&D. They took their absolute best new tool and instantly put it to work in the lab. And that is exactly what triggered that massive 50% speedrun we just talked about.
Section 2. Meet Agent 1, the scatterbrain genius.
And this brilliantly illustrates the whole paradox of this technology. We all naturally want to compare an AI like Agent 1 to a human worker, but its skill profile is completely alien. Just think about its strengths. It's superhuman. It literally knows more facts than any human alive. It practically knows every programming language in existence, and it can solve well-defined coding problems at blistering, incredibly fast speeds. But then, consider the weaknesses. They are glaring. Agent 1 is remarkably bad at even simple, long-horizon tasks. Handed a video game it hasn't seen before, it totally fails. It just cannot plan multiple complex steps into an unknown future. So you have this brilliant, lightning-fast executor who is simultaneously a terrible long-term strategist.
Which brings us to this absolutely perfect quote from the source material. You can basically think of Agent 1 as a scatterbrained employee who thrives under careful management. This completely flips the traditional workflow on its head. Think about a normal 8-hour workday, which is usually broken down into smaller chunks, right? Well, to actually use Agent 1 effectively, researchers can't just hand it some massive, open-ended, multi-month project. No way. Instead, the humans have to act as the managers, chunking out the complex work into very specific, highly detailed microtasks. The human handles the long horizon planning, and this scatterbrained AI executes the short-term coding at superhuman speed. It's a total symbiotic relationship, but it heavily relies on the human manager knowing exactly how to prompt and guide the system.
Section 3. The Security Nightmare. The High Stakes of Automation. Our source highlights a really stark realization hitting OpenBrain's executives. Because they automated their R&D, Corporate security isn't just an IT headache anymore. It is a critical, high-stakes geopolitical issue. Just notice the massive shift in fear from 2025 to 2026. In 2025, the worst-case scenario was, a competitor leaking some algorithmic secrets, standard corporate espionage stuff. But by 2026, the fear totally evolved. The source points out that if a global adversary, say China for example, were to steal Agent 1's actual neural network weights, they wouldn't just be stealing a new product, they would instantly gain that nearly 50% research speed boost for their own internal development. The stakes went from stealing a blueprint to literally stealing an entire automated hyperspeed laboratory.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how objectively terrifying the mismatch is between standard corporate security and this new reality. Let's look at the Rand Corporation security levels, or SLs. SL2 defends against low-priority attacks, and shockingly, that is the current reality for OpenBrain, which, remember, is just a fast-growing tech company of about 3,000 people. They're sitting at SL2. Bumping up a tier, SL3 defends against top cybercrime syndicates and insider threats. OpenBrain is working incredibly hard right now just to reach that level to protect their weights and secrets. But then, look at the top tier, SL4 and SL5. That's the level of security you need to defend against focused, well-resourced nation-states. And according to the data, achieving that kind of defense is barely even on the horizon for OpenBrain.
Which leaves us with this final, frankly critical question. As AI research exponentially accelerates itself, can corporate defenses ever actually catch up? We've seen today how a 50% multiplier is totally redefining innovation, creating this blazing fast, scatterbrained research assistant. But we've also seen the terrifying reality that a 3,000-person company is suddenly holding tech that nation-states would do just about anything to get, all while operating with defenses that are fundamentally not ready for that level of threat. It is the ultimate double-edged sword of automated progress. Thank you so much for focusing in and joining me for this explainer. Definitely keep this question in mind as you watch the tech landscape evolve, because this gap between innovation speed and security capability is for sure going to define the next decade.